Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a confusing looking game because there are parts of it that I think look fun. I think it looks like it could be a good time. I just think it's also an example of a game that doesn't need to be a part of the genre that it's in being kind of shoehorned into it. And there are these gear scores and overwrought, really busy looking menus with like a ton of numbers and stats and different levels for like there's multiple levels per character or something. I think there's like separate ranks, and it's like this doesn't really need to be this overcomplicated. I think people respond really, really well to things that are really, really polished, really, really great, and really, really simple. I think it's one of the reasons why Dead Space is so like even still to this day, like Dead Space Remake, it changed. Depending on who you talk to, it either changed very, very little or very, very little or it changed a lot. But Dead Space is a simple game, and it still resonates today because it's so approachable. And I feel like these games are just becoming less and less approachable, especially as live service games, retain their audiences. Like people who are playing Destiny, who are in their ninth year of playing Destiny, are not going to switch over to Suicide Squad and have Suicide Squad be their main game. Like it's just not going to happen. People who are doing Fortnite for that long, not going to switch over to Suicide Squad. It's not going to happen. So what you're doing essentially is you're taking a game that could have been very, very enjoyable and very, very solid without all of these extra, shoehorned in design elements and ultimately weakening it.
I think the game looks fun, personally. I think the game looks pretty. I'm turned off by all the gear stuff or whatever, and I wanted something more Arkham-like. But if you reduce it down to its bare essence, right? Arkham Knight comes out 2015, et cetera, and so on. What is the cost benefit analysis of saying, let's spend X amount of money, let's say $100 million or $150 million building a AAA DC game. And we could either sell it once with DLC, perhaps like some expansion later on, and we can make our money that way, or we can sell it once and then hope people stick around, but turn people off at the same time. In other words, with a game as strong as kind of something from the Arkham lineage, wouldn't you want to just sell the game once, then maybe have a $15 or $20 expansion, make easily more than $1 billion in gross revenue by selling the game 15 million times or something like that and having something very solid? In other words, I don't know if this makes sense what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, why did they put so much work into making it so that people have to stick with this game? That was never the point of the Arkham games. And that they spent all this time making a game like that, I think, is a disservice to the studio itself. It's very BioWare. It's very similar. It's very, like we said, Crystal Dynamics. And it just seems like a waste of time that doesn't even necessarily make them more money. So I don't understand it.
Everyone, I think, had a lot of expectations about what they wanted this game to be. And I think that's totally fair, coming from Rocksteady and the Arkham games and them really kind of pitching this as the next thing. I mean, even in that state of play, they say this is the next game in the Arkhamverse. So yeah, that's going to come with some expectations. But it made me think of, and I don't think he's the first person to say this, but he's the person I heard it from, is there's a YouTuber, MKBHD. He does tech videos. But he brings up this point about expectations being the thief of joy. And I think that that's a lot of what's happening right now. And to be clear, if you're not into what you're seeing from this game, that's totally fine. And if you're maybe disappointed that it's not what you want it to be, I get that also. But I don't necessarily look at this and see like a really bad game. And I don't really see Avengers in this game. I get the comparison, especially because it's superheroes and Marvel and DC and stuff like that, but I don't get that vibe from this game. Sure, there's elements that don't sound very good, particularly they mentioned the battle pass and stuff like that. But I don't know. To me, I just don't see this as like they're not asking for this to be your next lifestyle game.
I'm actually I disagree with you a little bit, Dustin. I think that this was.
I thought that I never disagreed with you, Colin. Oh, sorry.
Oh, well, yeah, that's so everyone says. You read too much what the audience says. We disagree all the time, but for me, I look at it and I'm like, I can understand people's disappointment in this. Absolutely. It's very different. You hit the nail on the head, Dustin, they called it an Arkham game. That comes with a certain level of expectations of at least what it is. And
yeah,
that's like calling Call of Duty a Call of Duty game, but it's a third-person shooter. I mean, it's just fundamentally not a Call of Duty game anymore.
We don't know if this game is bad yet.
No,
I actually think it looks fun.
I should be clear about that. I don't think it's going to be bad at all.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying you guys are saying that. I'm saying that I'm seeing comments that are people like, dead in the water. This is bullshit. And I'm like, calm down.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
You know what I feel like? And this is totally speculation. This is totally like, this is just gut feeling. Could potentially be entirely wrong, right? But it feels like they wanted to make like an original co-op IP thing, like some original co-op shooter, and then the publisher was like, this needs to be a DC game because you guys are good at that. And then they were like, all right,
that could be.
So that's what I get to say, because why is Harley Quinn swinging around like Spider-Man? Like, that's just weird to me. Like, it doesn't come across like, it doesn't read like Harley Quinn, really. The shark kind of can fly also sometimes. It's just weird. There's also rumors that they canceled the Superman game to make this, which would explain Metropolis as the setting, but like, I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say, like, I do think the game's going to be good. I don't think this game has a shot of being like anywhere near Avengers, you know?
No, I think what I think will end up happening with this is the game will sell well. It'll probably do pretty well. It's probably pretty good. But what they're going to end up finding out is that it's going to have this Arkham-like life cycle where it's going to be alive for a little while and then ultimately fall off. But they're going to lack that zeitgeist moment killer status that Arkham had, especially Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I don't think Arkham Knight had it as much. And so I think that that's what they're going to learn. And I mean, this really is either the end of, it's certainly the end of Rocksteady as we know it. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They're not going to end Rocksteady, but it goes into this thesis that I've been putting forth that teams should just be reformed and should be more ephemeral. And maybe it's time to go. And so May 26, 2023 is when it comes to PlayStation 5. I personally just want to reiterate, I think the game is going to be fun and good. I just totally understand why people are disappointed in this. And I agree with you, Chris. It's certainly not a game I'm probably going to play right away, although we'll have to see what the status of everything is at that time, like what is out.
Yeah.
But I did something funny, which I thought was interesting. Micah and I were like looking through the store. We watched the trailer, we watched the gameplay. I'm like, this shit, I don't know, gives me a bad feeling. And then I went and looked at Gotham Knights, and it was like $22 or whatever. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going to buy this. And maybe I'll play that one day. So I just like bought it, added it to my download list because I was watching a trailer of it. And I'm like, yeah, it's at 30 frames. It's pretty tough, but it looks like an Arkham game. I mean, that game is much more of an Arkham game than this will ever be. And if that's what you're looking for, maybe that's where you have to go. I don't think Factions is going to be looked at as a game as a service. And I've said this before that I have this feeling Factions is going to be like a full Last of Us game in co-op with a lot of multiplayer components to it. That's just the feeling I get based on the artwork and based, again, on what I feel like is very deliberate language, talking about playing it with a friend, singular, which is what was said in the letter about Factions from Naughty Dog. They didn't say friends. They didn't go back and edit it. It said play with a friend. And that is not a live service game in my mind. That's a co-op game. Those are different things. Now, the game could be in perpetuity. There could be gear scores. I don't know. But we don't really... I'm loath to judge anything that we haven't yet seen. It would be premature for us to have really judged the Suicide Squad game until we actually saw it. And I think the same is going to be true for this. And I have more faith that it's going to be more story driven than people are expecting it. That's my opinion anyway. Dustin, what do you think?
I disagree. I think that there will be I think you're right in that there will be a campaign that will have co-op in it, but I would expect that to be one piece of the pie, and that we will be getting some sort of live service multiplayer suite alongside that story driven campaign, because I don't think that would be, I think if it was just that, a lot of people would be disappointed because of how many people loved the original Factions. And I think there's a lot of potential, and Sony wants a piece of that pie, like very clearly. And they have teams now that can help them do it. So I don't know. I think it's maybe like I said, a mix of both.
Yeah.